can start by saying, greetings to councillors and members of the public, and a particular hiring eye to the members of the Christianity who are here in good numbers. So just a reminder that this is being recorded and live stream, and it will be available for you on the council YouTube channel shortly. The health and safety message is that if there is an emergency, please by the door behind you and from me, or the door behind me, we meet on the playground when we await instructions. We will start with that letter here. Kia ora te marito. Kia whakapapa te nāma te toa. E hurati mātāpau here, te rasta. Aroa dātu, aroa. Rātou e tāra katoa. Ui e. So we'll just do some formalities first. Are there any apologies? I believe an apology for early departure from Council. I would move an apology to accept that. I have a statement from Councillor Bray, all in favour, please say aye. That's carried. Are there any conflicts of interest? There are none, so we move on to acknowledgements and tributes. Councillor Bray. Yes.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm aware that it is not the function of this council to be involved in central government actions on foreign policy and relations, and I acknowledge the limitations of my role as councillor in speaking about this. However, as an elected representative of my community and as someone with a public voice, I'm taking this opportunity to acknowledge and condemn the military violence that is currently occurring in Gaza. I raise my voice to speak on behalf of the thousands of civilians that have lost their homes, their families, and their lives. As of Monday evening, the reported estimated death toll is 11,300 people, including 4,630 children. War harms all in its time, and I accept that there are violent conflicts occurring globally. However, I specifically condemn in the strongest of terms the disproportionate retaliation and criminal actions of the Israeli Defence Force against Palestinian civilians. I condemn the targeted bombing of hospitals, of schools and refugee camps, the bombing of routes identified as safe passage. I condemn the violence that is indiscriminately killing women and children. I'm very clear that my condemnation extends to the perpetrators of the violence and not the Jewish or Palestinian communities that have been unjustly hurt by hateful media campaigns that seek to confuse and misinform. And I note the words of Paul Hunt, our Chief Human Rights Commissioner, who has said that from the highest levels of government, we must publicly condemn all forms of anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, anti-Israeli and anti-Palestinian words and actions. He's also said it is vital not to equate Hamas with all Palestinians or Muslims. It is imperative not to equate Israel's military response with all Israelis or Jews. And it is crucial to extend empathy, respect, and manaakitanga to all affected neighbours, colleagues, friends, and constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
I have one tribute to a wife member of the Featherston RSA, Richard Warburton, who passed away. It's not, sorry, the 17th.
Any other tributes or acknowledgements that are being done? We come on with public participation. Now, today we have 3 people who wish to participate. We'll start with Rosie Swanson, then we'll go to Rebecca Fox, then we'll go to Alex Mayer. Now, the rules are that you get 5 minutes to speak, and incidentally, in case anyone thinks that they're shortchanged, 5 minutes is the length of time councillors can speak during the debate also. If you wish to provide councillors with the opportunity to ask questions or elaboration, then we need to finish your corridor of the 4 or 5 minutes, because 5 minutes you will move on to the next speaker. So Rosie, please come and join us. Your 5 minutes, when you start speaking for us.
Good morning, Mayor Connery and the councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to your paper today. It's hard to put it into a 5-minute speaking slot. We've said are going to engage you all and ignite the discussion that we want to have, while also quantifying our value we've given to our community for the past 20 years. It is recognised across New Zealand that councils play a critical role in providing opportunities to support local communities to participate in play, active recreation and sport. Under the Local Government Act, the role of the council is to promote the social, economic, environmental and cultural wellbeing of communities in the present and for the future. Our local recreation and sporting clubs add so much to our communities, and council does have a role to play in supporting them. Greyhound Sport and Leisure in its current form is widely known and respected across many networks. Some specific functions of ours can be seen in varying forms across other councils, including Upper Hutt, Waimakariri, Tararua and Palmerston North. Based on evidence, we know having our society within the community to offer the support to clubs and community groups is valued. Clubs continue to struggle with day-to-day management, administration, volunteers and governance, and this is across all of New Zealand, no matter the size of the club. We advocate for our clubs on issues that are important to the community, some of which have been the skate park, the Kurunui College gym, green spaces and the pavilion project. We share sporting collaboration across Wairarapa communities, which includes working closely with the local education providers and community groups. Just this week, I spoke at an Active Southland meeting where they were looking to implement our model into the Winton sports clubs. We acknowledge some larger councils have more assets and facilities to manage, more resources available to them, and specific sport and recreation plans with key principles that guide how a council will identify gaps or areas for improvement. But we see this as an opportunity for this council to look forward and create a clear vision and some key principles into making a positive change moving forward, and we believe we can be part of this. We understand council has finite resources. Committing to and funding gaps means weighing needs and priorities across all council functions. And perhaps right now it feels like sport and recreation may be at the end of the list of those priorities, or a nice to have. But data is clear that underinvestment in these outcomes will absolutely lead to bigger issues. Some of these can already be seen within Greytown and continue to provide significant challenges. It's vital to keep participation levels up across all ages and improve the sporting experience for participants. Increasing better use of facilities and grounds, supporting the council to manage these relationships with key stakeholders, recognising shortfalls or areas for improvement and appropriate investment will allow sport and recreation to be able to thrive and grow in our region across all ages now and into the future. In your paper, there is reference to other councils partnering with their regional sporting providers, and it states this council provides funding to Nuku Ora through the community and youth grants process. Nuku Ora's areas of work over the past year have been focused on play, healthy active learning, green prescription, active families, spaces and places, community and balance, and the allocation of the Te Manawa Fund. However, Greytown Sport and Leisure's area of work has been on the ground, used in grassroots sport and leisure activities for the clubs we currently represent and the wider community. We recognise the challenges our clubs and community have ahead. We're advocating for clubs through periods of change and uncertainty, and at times we have a varying work program that we adapt to. Our strengths lie in our knowledge, resources, established relationships, and support we offer to these groups at this level. Our time should be focused to provide these services that we were created for, and to recognise opportunities across our community for improved services, facilities and growth in our club, and community health and wellbeing. And this is simply different to the work program of Nuku Ora, who we also have a partnership with. When we look ahead into what the future could look like for this community, we see an opportunity to adapt and become South Wairarapa Sport and Leisure, supporting the council, sports clubs and community groups across South Wairarapa with a plan to ensure we meet the demands of our growing population, establishing key principles, collaborative approaches and a willingness of key and ongoing commitment of stakeholders to work together. We think this will have a positive impact for this community. Today, I ask you to consider these options, to think about what this council's overall vision for sport and recreation in this community is, and what that future could look like. Are there opportunities for future investment and partnerships here that can add real value and a positive impact to this community? And I think
Thank you very much. And as you say, there was a big delay with the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The next is Rebecca Fox, and I think you're online, Rebecca. You may be muted, however. Are you able to unmute and talk to us, please?
Good morning. Yes, I am.
So the next 5 minutes is yours.
Thank you. Well, good morning. I raise my concerns regarding the decision you're about to make regarding establishment of Māori wards in this district. As a previous councillor, I understand the processes that should take place to engage with community on decisions that are of a significant nature. The decision you are being asked to make today has been determined to be significant by Council's governance team, and council officers have proposed a decision around the establishment of Māori wards is significant, and the significance and engagement policy does not need to be followed. I hope you understand and are informed by this policy. It is my view you have received bad advice from your council officers. When a policy is triggered, it needs to be followed. This is a matter of law and why council has policy to ensure consistency and robustness in decision making. You need to ask questions about why council officers are making these recommendations, and if they are against implemented policy, clearly understand what the implications of decision making outside of these will mean for council, the community it was elected by and serves. The establishment of Māori wards is a change to the governance structure. The advice provided as consultation isn't required. A change of Act of Parliament removed the requirement for referendum. In no way did it remove the requirement for engagement and conversation with the wider community, and this is specifically provided for and being ignored by officers. ELT have met with members of the Māori community and the Standing Committee. They have not met with the wider community, and most elected members around this table have not been engaged in conversation. I ask how much information has come back to you around what was discussed and presented here today. Do you have a balanced report from your governance team? And they ought to be presenting a balanced report to you. If not, you need to ask for one. And it is my view this report shows bias. Council policy states engagement may not need to occur when it already has an understanding of the views and preferences of interested or affected parties. As decision makers, do you understand who the interested or affected parties might be? Is it just one part of the community or all parts of the community? I am both interested and affected by this decision, and on that basis, I request to be consulted. Section 78 of the Local Government Act requires a local authority to give consideration to views and preferences of persons likely to be affected or have interest in the matter to its decision making. You must, as decision makers, be confident this has occurred. The community is more than just Māori, and to decide in the absence of conversation and engagement with others ignores a wider part of our district. Previous councils elected to maintain the status quo regarding Māori wards. This was to ensure that full discussion took place, not a discussion with just Māori, but a full discussion with the wider community, that is everyone that could be affected and is interested. Over the years, the voice of the Māori Standing Committee has changed as a function of people involved and the involvement of members in the committee, providing input into decisions. During my term as a councillor, Māori Standing Committee representation was high during all planning processes and many meetings. Views and ideas were listened to and contributed to the decision-making processes. No separate voice or vote was needed, as all voices were heard and acted on, and the voice of Māori was at the table, and it was valued, and it was collaborative. The South Wairarapa District Terms of Reference document, South Wairarapa District Council Terms of Reference document, is also relevant, and it directly talks to the wider South Wairarapa District community as being a stakeholder you need to engage with. Please be sure that you have. You are being asked to make a decision without full information. The section on financial implications of the officer's report states no financial implications at this time. How can you be asked to make such a significant decision with no information on finances at this time, or with any reference to future implications? This is poor advice. Ratepayers deserve to know that significant decisions made around governance must consider not just now, but the future. You don't have to decide yesterday because time is running out, and a decision needs to be made by the 23rd of November 2023 for the 2025 elections. The prudent decision to make is to include this consultation with the wider representation review set to occur in 2024. At that time, council officers should be appropriately resourced to conduct this work. By their own admission, that clearly has not been in this report, and that alone should be cause for concern as governors. As a member of this community and this district, I ask you to vote no to the establishment of Māori wards today. Rushed decision-making and narrow consultation is poor governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget, and that was beautifully timed. Well, I think over, just want to thank you a lot of words. We appreciate your input, and we'll now move to
Thank you.
who is Alex. You think I think I saw you last. I didn't hear. So welcome, Alex. Come to the front. And, your 5 minutes starts from when you get forward. Thank you very much.
Previous my submission, I in favour of Māori wards. In my time on the Maori Standing Committee, in my consultations and work with iwi and Marapino, and Marae, I became quite clear in my opinions. However, today we're talking regarding legality and process. In 2021, acting on advice from the Māori Standing Committee, Council resolved and directed council officers to consider Māori wards in conjunction with a full governance review funded with facts. This was a binding resolution and has not been overturned. And thus, this conflicting resolution you're tabling today cannot proceed to a vote. With regards to significance, it does meet 2 of the criteria of the Council's policy. This is admitted paper. No consultation, only engagement, and the commission and the report has occurred. Questions on the engagement, engagement that was given have not appeared to be approved by council. No engagement issues should be approved by council before going to engagement. I have no evidence that this has occurred. Additionally, there is no legal opinion table as to the ability to proceed with this vote without consultation, and that is the minimum I would expect in an officer's report. Why are we here? Tomorrow is the deadline for the establishment of Māori wards for the 2025 election. Council has failed to implement the funded and mandated governance review resolved in the 2021 LTP to ensure that this matter is addressed in a timely manner. And you're now in a position of rushing through a resolution that is under-researched, dubious in its conclusions, and breaks a number of policies and laws. So I submit that the tabling of this motion requires councillors to potentially vote on a resolution that breaks the Local Government Act, the Council's significance policy, and advice from the Local Government Commission on adherence to significance and engagement policy, thus placing them in a position of acting illegally. I submit that this resolution must be removed from the agenda by the Mayor and the CEO in order that the unresolved issues are addressed.
Thank you. And it was still 2 minutes to go. I'll invite questions or comments or collaboration. And there appears to be none, so you've obviously explained yourself very clearly. Thank you. I just have a look change of plan here. On the agenda at the beginning of the day, Derek Anderson was down there for participant, and then believe I see him at the back of the room. Is that correct there? Yeah. Thank you. Do you wish to participate? Yes. Okay. So, I think we know the rules, 5 minutes max. What do you just
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for trying to look on 6 range standing orders of things. The first thing I want to point out is again that the level of responses within respect of official information request continue to be stonewall. I asked how the finance committee.
This, I understand in this answer, that was previously spoken on the annual plan subject at the finance committee meeting on the 25th of October. I also understand that right now he's criticised our staff and under 15.2 of our steering footers, that's sort of behaviour. But while it's up to your discretion, I don't believe that our staff, while public participation is a right for residents and ratepayers to speak in a council meeting, it is not the right for residents and ratepayers to be criticising, intimidating, harassing our staff.
And I entirely agree with the point you've made. So maybe we can clarify what the topic is, because as Councillor Elam says, you have spoken on the Goimia issues previously.
He referred to the plan and something else.
Yeah, well,
Not the Goimia issues. I haven't actually started, so.
okay, so if we can just clarify what the topic is then.
I asked an official question as to how the finance committee can discharge its terms of reference under the current regime for reviewing finances. They are supposed to look at finances quarterly. I was told they couldn't answer the question because the terms of reference are being set at this meeting, which is clearly wrong. Terms of references were set last November. They have been in club since.
Thank you. And that's the matter you wish to.
That's one of the matters. The head of finance had stated in the last meeting, I think it was, that councillors had reviewed the financial reports for the last financial year. I asked an official request as to what meeting that happened at. I was again refused and told that it was public already and it was in the finance committee meeting minutes. I was at that meeting. I do not believe councillors had sat down and actually been given an explanation of the financial results for the last financial year. In terms of how was the profit derived, how the variances go, where the cash flows are, loan repayments. And the last point I want to say is I'm just aghast that the financial annual report is not here at this committee for approval.
Okay, thank you. Now, does anybody have a question?
Sorry, I've actually moved it one up.
Well, look, you still have time.
I think in terms of the delegations, the reliance on the one-up rule in the financial system is unrealistic. It's never going to work. And I would also be saying, urging the assurance committee into the finance committee, as far as I can see, is totally against what the Office of the Auditor General recommends. And having said previously it was wrong to have it happen after the finance committee, merging it is even worse. So those are my points.
Thank you very much. So, any observations, questions? Oh, yes, there was one. Thank you.
Thanks, thanks for coming, Derek. So what was the thing, sorry, it's mentioned about the one-up rule? You just.
The one-up rule that the delegation relies on is actually only truly affected by the honesty of individuals. Yeah, I did a contract at the Ministry of Justice and I had to actually deal with the bigwigs and the credit cards. The executive assistants had to log into the financial system. So this whole idea of this person goes to that person to get approval, it doesn't work in practice. At the Commerce Commission, my boss would take us all out for a function and tell me to put it on my credit card so he signed it, so I didn't have to go to the CEO. the ways around these things are huge. And so I'm just saying to you, it still actually relies on honesty of the individuals. Wellington City Council, people would ring up and say, now can you split that invoice over two so it fits in my delegations? So unless you put in the technical controls, has been that, oh, here's the same supplier on the one day sending two invoices for $500 each, because that was the person's delegations, and didn't go over $1,000, you need to go up the chart. Just, it doesn't work.
And that's very interesting point, which I'm sure we'll consider. But that is your 5 minutes. So thank you very much for coming along. Thanks. So that brings us to
As you're aware, just maybe that email, it was unable to,
somebody is thinking on. So we'll move to A6, actions from public service. That we are not going to hear from anybody because it's not reserved for time.
we haven't passed out emails from people that have given them we can't attend.
We will definitely understand that.
All that I'd like to officially take is as part of participation in the record.
Are you able to send it through to the other councillors?
So,
Just so they're more aware.
councillors.
Section A6, action from public participation. Councillors, do we have anything that we would like followed up? We do not, so we will come and ask, is there any extraordinary business? Being none, we'll move on to confirming the minutes. So if we're considering the council minutes from the 13th of September, 20th of September, 27th of September, and the 12th of October, has anybody spotted any corrections? Okay, do I have a mover to confirm all of those, please? I do. Councillor Horn.
It's just a point that those we do these more councillors who are present at all those meetings.
Do you wish to speak?
I'll speak myself.
Thank you. Okay, so move the all these said the goals. All in favour, please say aye. Right, thank you very much. Are there any matters arising from any of those points? Right. There being none, we'll go on to section B of the agenda, which are report backs from community boards, our standing committee, and we're going to start with the community board, who I believe have got on the so, Angela, welcome. Could you take us through?
I'm presenting today on behalf of the Martin Grove Community Board on the topic of the lighting project in the village here. So I'm presenting on behalf of the whole board. Unfortunately, Storm Gibson apologies, we cannot be with us today. First, we want to acknowledge our MCE, Jan Smith. We're looking forward to working with you very much. And we particularly appreciate that Janice has championed this issue, street lighting here. On this square, and she's recognised immediately the importance of a very real health and safety issue that we need to address. And she has also stated that it must be addressed with urgency. The Martin Grove Community Board fully support the resolution that was made at last week's Infrastructure and Services Committee meeting. We fully support that resolution, which I believe will advance this project with urgency. And we wish to acknowledge finally Aidan and Pip's ongoing work on this topic. Got to say.
Okay, just reading this community says,
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your thank you.
Well, yeah, it's pretty hot topic and to be able to actually tell people, yeah, there's something new today. You know, and that sounds pretty exciting.
Well,
So we would have handled it without hearing. But thanks for.
Well, as you spelled it, I would already thank the and council for trying to request that right. Would like us to repeat, thank you again, just.
So can I say something?
Thank you.
Thank you so much to the Marlborough community for all of the work that you've actually done and for continuing to advocate for the people of our ward, of the Marlborough ward. Really appreciate the work that you do and just know that we you know, we can continue to raise it up as well. But the work that you've done on the ground has been absolutely invaluable since you've been on this train. So thank you very much.
Councillor McCall.
Yes, I would like to say the same too. I think that what you've done on this, in reflected the community needs through to the council so clearly. It's really, if anyone ever consider the community board not having an important function, I think that totally nullifies that. Well done.
Thank you very much. If the council policy, do you have a query?
Oh, no, I was just scratching my eyes.
Thank you for making
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. But now we section C, which is recommendation from Denise, the chief executive and council officer. We're going to start with C1, recommendations from the Assurance and Risk Committee, and that's on page 34. And the main recommendation from the Assurance and Risk Committee is that we improve the draft of the revised and financial delegation policy. So what I'm seeking at this point is somebody to move that we do approve the draft. And Councillor Gray and the seconds it. And we will now discuss it because there are people who raise some points. Councillor Gray is the people thank you. Councillor Woodcock.
Yes, yeah, we did a couple of things here, it's fine on the pages I'm looking at. One on page 44. Got it as a unlimited CEO has delegations for unlimited write-off of rates. Is this standard practice or? Yes, I'm saying.
Well, probably the sensible thing to do here is to ask the question, people respond and ask the next question rather than make the whole up.
Through the chair, this is the new power that was created from the Federal Highway Amendment Act in the Rating Act, probably 2 years ago. It does not have any constraints on it. The actual section of the Act specifies that the debt has to be collectible, and then the CE can write it up.
So on 8.3 on page 40. This line is it's more I think it's in Europe, it doesn't make sense to me. It says of any position, should that be of a position? And then on the third line uses the words officer, where on the rest of them it's been changed to position. So should that officer where going to be replaced as well?
Can you just, it's on page 49.
Page 49 under 8.3.
8.3.
On the top line it says conditions of any position, so I think it should be a position. I'm not too sure how that works technically, but then on about the third line down, once again, it has the word officer, which hasn't been crossed out and changed to position, where all the rest of them have. I'm just wondering if that can be.
It's supposed to be underlined and not still. Through the chair, the first is an error, and it should be A.
Yeah.
So that can be amended. In relation to the second, what the sentence is saying is that the delegation letter should be countersigned by the officer
Right,
who is accepting the delegation, so they understand the parameters they're working within. So officer is correct in that section.
next, Janice, the next one. Page. Oh, yeah, sorry. So on 9.1, which is page 50, it's got, I've switched the capital with OPEX around so that you can't transfer, capital cannot be transferred to OPEX, but there's nothing about the other way around. What is the technical legalities of that? Are you allowed to transfer OPEX to capital, OPEX to capital, but not capital to OPEX?
Through the chair, correct. You can use operational savings to fund capital work, but you cannot use capital savings to fund operational work, because that is tantamount to borrowing to fund your operations, which is not something that I would ever recommend.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought. Yeah, no, thanks very much for that.
Thank you. Also, the other thing I'll ask Janice to do is to just give us a very brief explanation of this particular paper has got, I think, more edits than we are accustomed to seeing, but there is a reason for that, and I'll just ask for it.
Thank you, through the chair. This was my first look at the delegations policy, the first week of me being here. I was concerned that the policy did switch from position to person and back again at various points. It's very clear that the delegation should be to a position and not to a person. So I've been through and amended all of those. And also that the delegations for finance go through the CE to the officers. So as council, you delegate to the CE and the CE then delegates to officers. So what I've done here is go through and make it clear where those changes are. Having had this approved by the Finance and the Insurance and Risk Committees, I didn't want to just change it and you not see the changes that have been made. So that's why you see track changes across the document, so that you can see where I have made an amendment or included something like the section 98 write-off requirements.
Appreciate that too, Janice, mention that, because sometimes you get these things that can change and not all marked throughout the document. This is an easy way of seeing what is.
Absolutely, I wanted it to be clear to you before you adopted the policy, what I was recommending the changes to be.
Any other comments, observations? Right. Okay, so what we'll do now is to vote that we do approve the policy with the late amendment on page 49 of the word and with and we are approving otherwise the corrections of red. Again, that's Darren, thank you very much. And I think that then brings us to the infrastructure and community services committee, which on page 58. So, does everybody found page 58? So what we'll do is we'll ask for somebody to move with the recommendations to be received by the council, Councillor Elam, Councillor Maynard, secretary. Is there any discussion? Otherwise, we'll hopefully improve that and then go on to the activity.
So the recommendation A, approve the increase in budget provisions to 500,000. So what's happened to the original 200,000 unbudgeted, that we approved at the last meeting? what happens to that money, does it go back into a fund? I also had concerns that we were given estimates to vote on in February, back in February, $200,000 for the lighting in the square, and then another 300,000 across the district for the other crossings that aren't up to standard. Only to now be told that the square is 500,000, originally the top of the whole district. Therefore, we have potentially voted to spend $1.25 million of ratepayers' money on those cost increases. According to the percentage increases. What is the solution to this? And maybe we should never vote unless accurate quotes and tenders are put in front of us.
Thank you.
Thank you for your worship. I believe that so it's an increase of the 200 still this is an increase of 300. So 200 still there. So that is.
Are we using that money, or is that going back somewhere else, starting again?
Yeah, so I guess like, I would like, as well as the 200,000 being used to look at buying the lighting units or, before the other 300,000. Look at, what's going on, that's 200,000.
Thanks, Nima. My understanding is chair of infrastructure, was that the original 200K was approved by infrastructure committee and council come out of the infrastructure reserve. And my understanding at that state period of time was that 200K was to fund the lighting over 3 pedestrian crossings, 2 around the square and 1 down Jellicoe Street pedestrians. Once the work with the project manager took place, and not just was those 3 pedestrian crossings looked at, but that project expanded out to 10 pedestrian crossings. Once it was priced up, that therefore the cost went from 200,000 for the 3 pedestrian crossings to 500,000 for 10 pedestrian crossings. So the 200,000 was going to put into to complete their job for 10 pedestrian crossings. We had feedback from council officers about the necessity to do all those jobs at one time. Deputy or chair or co-chair, deputy mayor, councillor Miller said for it, and myself met with officers and suggested perhaps and asked why can't we split the project up into 2 to get the priority ones done first. The feedback was there needed to be the same level of service across the pedestrian crossing in town. And it would cost might have contractors back on site on 2 different occasions to do that. So that's why it's gone up to 500K. I think with a new TV arrival last week, she has broken those recommendations in detail and it's certainly the approval or the expectation to order those lights at the earliest opportunity, so that at the start of next financial year, we're not waiting for having a 20-week time frame for us to deliver. And also there's a discussion here about that money comes from the infrastructure reserve, all loan funded, and because it's going to go into a long-term plan next year, it will hopefully be attracting them more Kentucky subsidy going forward. And then the rest of the districts, district projects across their other towns, Greytown and Featherston, that work program will go into following years for long-term plan.
So 500,000, is that just for the round square, or is that for opt-out?
For 10 pedestrian crossings that have been identified as part of that. So I think the point that's council point I'm making is that the wording of 2A is inaccurate wording. It doesn't actually say what we are expecting.
For the pedestrian, the Martinborough pedestrian lighting project,
Which is,
as the name of a project that encompasses the 10.
but the original thing we voted on was just for the square, it's not us. That 500,000 just for the square. Was one thing,
10 pedestrian crossings in Martin Road.
so can we admit that statement?
I expect we can. Yeah. Right, and we'll come back, of course, in a moment and discuss the actual resolution. Are there any other issues? Well,
Thank you. Can I just, commend the staff on this one? This is the first time that, we've had a link in our agenda, rather than having to wade through papers after papers after papers, so aiming and to our staff, like, with the manager report. Thank you, I think makes it a much easier agenda for everyone. 600 pages.
on second day? Okay, I have one issue to raise. At the infrastructure and the service meeting, we discussed a vacant building at Greytown. It's sometimes referred to as the old library or the Sonic building. And we approved a recommendation at that meeting, which does not seem to have found its way into this report back. Now, the gist of the recommendation that was made at the time was that we would sort of defer discussion on what happens to that building into a long-term plan discussion. But subsequently, Councillor Boxley and I decided that that really was an overcomplication and in a way of starting to get some valuable use out of the building. And a much simpler approach would be to take the one that us and the council made, strangely enough, on exactly the same day that we were discussing this building in Greytown. Marston has a vacant building. It's oval area, not a pavilion, and it's looking to get some use out of it. So what it resolved to do was just to seek expression of interest. Now, as it happens, we know that there are at least 2 expressions of interest in that building. So it seems to me that the obvious thing to do, in fact, is to do the same as that and advertise widely that we are seeking expressions of interest from people who have got good use that they can put that into. So when the time comes and we can get on to discussing the actual recommendations, I foreshadowed that I would move an additional amendment essentially that we too seek the expressions of interest and hopefully start to get some light into a long-term discussion. Yes,
So just for clarification, so you'd like to add a new recommendation that's not actually on our paper,
yes, because
as another recommendation?
yes,
Because
because we should be some reference to it because of what on the last meeting.
I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit not here. Anyway, so.
I will read it out slowly.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor.
I'm just wondering if there's any restrictions or anything that we have to comply with the Silver Park Reserve to the same some specific requirements. And it's within us. So I'm aware of, I believe that the expression of interest should be based on community-based projects, as opposed to a conversion tenant initiative would understand with going through certification plan for that space. Can I ask a further question on so I probably agree to go through just interest in those projects. How once we get those, how would you sort of anticipate that we would rank those or decide on that? Is it going to be council or is it going to be council officers? How would you see that actually going? I'm not sure I would want to be the deciding factor on some competition.
Yes, I would expect council officers to go out of their lives.
But could we also maybe add to which is that we recommend when we keep carrying this on our website as a B4 higher. To decide to get some use out of them. Lead to further intrusion, which as well as derive income in space as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we, discussing whether we see the report, we can move from the second or all in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Now, I think, points A, B, and C can be taken as a collective threesome, because they're all on the same topic. I'll just check with Councillor Woodcock whether he wishes to seek an amendment to the wording.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'd like just slight amendments to state that the board.
Well, what we'll do is we'll seek a move of recommendations A, B, C. Council said before, I have the second, I really thank you, Councillor Bolsley. Now we can open it up for discussion and for amendment. So would you like to tell us your amended wording?
Something like pedestrian lighting project to $500,000 to consist of the work on 10 pedestrian crossings.
So that would approve the increase in budget provision for the pedestrian lighting project to $500,000 to pay for 10.
To cover the two.
To cover
The two pedestrian crossings in front of the
to cover 10.
So the reason that the chair is the marker is licensed by the project, and that's what we're getting of the thing is that within that project, it falls all the way through about all the district process. And I think if we change it and then we say that is for 10 specific, we're actually sort of changing the wording of the project that is what I know it's a little bit misleading, but that's the project name, but it covers sort of all of them.
But it's concerned was the budget keeps going up and up and up. It's coming back saying, well, we have enough money.
Probably guarantee it will. But you know, changing the name of the project, that's the project that's out there, and that's what CFO's currently working to. That project incorporates all the ministry costs in the district.
But the scope of the project had changed. The original scope was just 4 lights and now we're 10 lights and it's still got the same project name, so yeah, so it's a bit erroneous too.
Needs to update, maybe. So we have an amendment to exclude the word Canberra and to add the cover 10 pedestrian crossings.
No, that's what we did in the Martin, so it's not a pedestrian lighting project.
Okay, so sorry about that. So all we're doing when Councillor Woodcock is adding the cover 10 pedestrian crossing. Okay, so you'll move that amendment, is there a second, please? I'll second it. And is there any discussion? Okay, then we will we'll go to the vote on the amendment. All in favour of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. It's carried. So recommendation A is slightly altered. Nobody wishes to know. Any discussion? Okay. I'll see the vote. Please say aye. Aye. Against. No. Okay. I shall move an additional recommendation that we seek expressions of interest for the use of the building in the Stella Park, and in the meantime, the building be advertised as available for hire. Do I have a second, please? I do. Thanks, Councillor Plymouth. Any discussions? Okay, in that case, we go to the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Again, it's carried. Thank you very much. And now we come to the recommendation from our standing committee. And That report is on a 69, I think. 67. I put a fellow. Right, so the, at this point, we have two recommendations. One is to receive the recommendations from the Borough Standing Committee, and then the second recommendation is to note that the Borough Standing Committee strongly, unanimously supported the Maori Board to come into effect for 2025 and 2028. I will move both of those recommendations. I have a second, as Councillor Graham, thank you. Now, just to be clear, we're not at this point voting on whether Maori Board do come in. We're just noting that this is what the Maori Standing Committee have recommended. As the mover, I'll just make the comment that this has been a matter that's been debated very, very seriously and been by the Borough Standing Committee. It's fair to say that when it first came to the Borough Standing Committee, there was a very sort of, not sure if this is good or bad, but that they put a lot of work into finding out what people's views were, and that's what has ultimately resulted in them making the decision like they have. So that's my speech on moving. The second that they could.
I don't have a lot to say to this report, except to acknowledge the work of the Standing Committee. And I guess from a councillor's point of view, just to note what a joy, what a pleasure it is to have such a clear direction in the committee that's going for our money to get there.
Councillor McCall, Councillor.
Yes, I did like to add to the previous question about comment about lack of ratepayer consultation. I believe there was a lot of opportunity for ratepayers to be involved in a lot of the discussion through the process. I understand it. To touch that concern.
At this point, are we going to have at our table, or is that later on in the meeting?
Well, as certainly as the, I think I did see Andrew come in, I guess I did. Do you wish to come in to your report? Thank you. Welcome.
It's a mere call, could I hope for my waka? Ko aurani, ko ringu taka ngā mana, ko roa mahanga te awa, ko wairara ko moana te kare o te ka. Ko onoki te roto, ko nā te kahununu, ko rangitane, o kuiru, ko nā te hene waka, ko nā te hene tauira, o ku hapu, ko au, te mokopona, o kahununu, me rangitane o te. Ko Andrea Rutinia Home, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. E huri I te reo Pākipai, I te ao Pākehā. As the current chair of the Multi-Standing Committee, who includes representatives from Hāpāwai, Hauariki, Kohanui Marae, Paitu Mokai o Tauira, a Māori community-based group in Devaston, Ngāti Kahununu ki Wairarapa, and Rangitane o Wairarapa, the iwi o Wairarapa. I address you, Mayor Connolly, and councillors of South Wairakei District Council. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge those who have gone before us, on whose shoulders we now stand. Their strength, courage and relentless perseverance to the cause of mana motuhake and tino rangatira self-determination for their whānau hapu iwi Māori katoa will always be remembered, and whose torch we hold as we speak to you today. Honestly, personally, I can't believe that in 2023 we are still needing to do this. The government has delegated many important functions to local councils. While councils are a reflection of who local residents want to represent them, concerns for Māori remain. Being a minority group in our own whenua, on our own land, concerns such as low levels of Māori representation around the decision-making table of council, monocultural practices, a lack of attention to Te Tiriti o Waitangi in a way that materially affects Māori experience of local government, and inability to approach environmental matters from a Māori point of view, showing value to our perspective, and furthermore, a limited ability of council to provide positive leadership through decisions made on cultural issues for Māori. This is our experience. It's not a new experience, it's intergenerational. However, today council has the opportunity and power to make another step in the right direction. A step to uphold your own integrity, a step to acknowledge the value of mana whenua, tangata whenua of South Wairarapa, acknowledging the distinct contribution we have to make at all levels of council. Inclusion, involvement will only enhance, enrich and improve outcomes sought by council, sought by our communities. Inclusion would better equip councils to play their part in nation building. These things should not be left to chance. These things should be automatic. Let's move from the theoretical to the practically meaningful relationship that my forebears and Koutou Katoa showed right from the very beginning. A relationship that ensures a Māori present at council's table where policies are formulated, priorities set and decisions made. Māori cannot independently initiate the introduction of the Māori ward, but you can. This discussion, this kaupapa is not new. We've heard from previous councillor, previous mayor, that this discussion has been going on for a number of years. It has been my experience that past attempts of engagement led to a protest. And being on the Māori Standing Committee at the time, we didn't receive the necessary information required to make informed decisions until after the fact of that protest. A stark comparison to my experience this time around. And I made it a personal initiative of my own to ensure that this process was done properly from my past experience in 2021. My experience this time is that officers have been meticulous to ensure all requirements for a discussion and a decision on establishing or not establishing a Māori ward could be made. And I salute you for that hard work and appreciate it. While we can only imagine the past, somehow there is a sense of having lived through the present before, where we, tangata whenua, mana whenua, stand before you, having considered the matter through our representatives on the Māori Standing Committee, and with a united voice, unanimously endorse the creation of a Māori ward in South Wairarapa for the 2025 and 2028 local body elections. Letters of support have been received from residents, iwi, and post-settlement government entities. Be a council that is committed to not only listening, but is a council that isn't afraid to make the right decisions and follow through with actions that build a community where we want to live and be a part of. Our tūranga waiwan, our home, nō reira, ane rā, o Wairarapa. We are all Wairarapa. O Wairarapa.
So, do I have the preferably some. Maybe. So we've got two recommendations.
I'd just like to acknowledge the fact that none of the others sitting at the table here, pleased to have the representation and our Māori Standing Committee for the South Wairarapa District Council, and I'd just like to thank you both for coming and doing that presentation here at the table today. It's such an important day.
So we have two recommendations. One that we received the recommendations from the Māori Standing Committee, but we know that the Māori Standing Committee unanimously recommended that the council support Māori Board for 2025. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Okay, that's fair enough. So what we will now do is we will come to page 16.
Can you just explain that? So the recommendation that we council had to do was to receive the recommendation.
We received,
Yeah.
and we received the report and know that we.
Okay, sorry.
So we come to page 69. And the recommendations here in the paper from officers that we adopt a position on reports and that sorry, I'm looking at page 75. So you want to page 75? Sorry,
Yes.
And so the recommendations are that we receive the Māori Board report that we are looking at, and that officers recommend that we approve the function, which is the government chooses to establish a Māori Board for 2025, 2028 and the local election for the South Wairarapa. I will move those in those recommendations. Secondly, please, I do, Councillor Hall. Thank you. So I think it's not particularly contentious that we receive the Maori Ward report. So we come to the guts of the matter is, do we support Maori Ward? I do, for several reasons, one of which is that I believe it's our legal duty to do so. If you look at the local government act, you'll see that one of the key responsibilities is that we can really improve our participation in our democracy. If we go back in time, I think it's fair to say that the most notable decision that we have made is the establishment long before we came here of the Maori Standing Committee. And that has served, I think, a very good purpose. Now we get the opportunity to step up. And this, I hope, will not be the last step. As time evolves, I'm sure we will find other ways to increase our participation as well. So the main point then is that we have a legal duty to increase the participation of Maori in our democracy. The second thing is that there's actually been, I believe, a change of view amongst Maori residents themselves. And I'm informed that if we go back some years, in fact, a lot of people who are now supporting the Maori possibly would have this in mind. I believe that one of the key reasons for the change of is actually the way this council is itself transacting with people look at us and they see a much greater degree of participation, respect, and in a sense that equality that the treaty envisaged all those years ago. However, as things stand, when it comes to the big decisions, the policies, whatever we do, Maori have no guaranteed say on our council. And I contrast that with Parliament. Parliament has had Maori electors now, I won't say just about forever, but they were a very, very, very early addition to our democratic process. In a sense, what we're now being invited to do is to do something similar for Maori in our district. I just wish to make one other observation before I hand over to Councillor Holmes. The thing we are discussing is the decision whether or not to approve a Maori role. We are not going to discuss the process by which we've got here. We have had multiple opportunities to do that at previous council. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Richard. About this, I think, of course, with the addition of, I think, from my understanding, is the Maori Standing Committee was established back in 1996, which is some 27 years ago, and it's taken us 27 years to get to this point, where Maori actually have a vote around the table. I think this is long overdue. I think the work that we've seen from our Maori Standing Committee and a representative model around this table and the influence it's had, it's been more pronounced over the last 5 or 6 years. And I think that's a maturing thing, not only for us as councillors, but also for the Maori Standing Committee. So I think the voice or the vote around the table from a Maori representative will only add strength to the Maori Standing Committee. I think that's where a representative role should be. I thank you for that.
Councillor Stapleton.
Before I do it, as well as
that I've said that we want to restrict councillors talking time to 5 minutes today. I believe that Councillor Thomas will probably go for a few more minutes, but then beyond that, I think he should be allowed that discretion to go beyond the 5 minutes. Given the fact that the chair is standing to over 5 minutes, she's allowed that grace as well. The same should be extended to Councillor Thomas as well.
So would you like to move accordingly?
I would like to move accordingly.
How long would you like to allow that?
Perhaps
Councillor Bolton is recommending. But 7 minutes to vote, second. There is all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So do you wish to have your 7 minutes now?
Yes, I do. So in 4 years I've been in council for South Grover, I've never felt a need to put your statement to read out in the council. Unfortunately, I now feel I have to. Whilst I fully support the Treaty of Waitangi as a founding document, the issue I address is the procedure and process we've been guided on by our officers on the establishment of the Maori Board for the next election. When I stood for election 4 years ago, I did so on a promise to our community that I would not act unilaterally on any issue of significance to the community without consultation. As many of you have observed of me, I'm a firm believer in following due process to ensure robust and defendable decision making. The first real test of this commitment came over the potential sale of land on West Street, where some people would end up in Greytown.
I'm going to interrupt you, Councillor, and repeat what I said a moment ago. I am not going to allow discussion process. That's not the recommendation that we are discussing. Please.
Are you going to say I cannot speak?
Please talk to the recommendation.
I am talking to the recommendation.
No, you are not.
I am.
No, you are not.
Well, okay, you're going to shut me down? Is that what you're saying? That I don't have a speaking right? I'm going to say
you have a speaking right as long as you talk to the recommendation.
I'm talking about the process to get to the recommendation. You don't have the right to unilaterally say I cannot speak on that process. I believe it is flawed.
I believe
I don't believe you do. I have a right to say my position around this table. You do not have the right to shut me down when I am saying I do not believe in the process.
No debate can allow discussion of matters that do not relate to the.
It relates entirely to that as to how we got there.
I think process has already been brought up by all our other participants as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But we are not discussing the process. We have discussed it at many previous.
I don't believe we had it. The analysis can't be it. We have discussed it.
Show me the minutes where we're discussing the government.
Well, the one I know is 28th of June.
And what is it going? Well, I've seen, you're saying I cannot discuss it. One comment.
Please discuss the motion.
I am discussing the motion. You don't like what I'm saying. That is different. I am able to discuss it.
I have no preferences one way as one was saying.
I don't have really entitled to discuss the process.
It does not relate to the motion.
Of course it does.
Sorry, Bishop, and sorry. I think we're not going to achieve any sort of outcome in this they are council. Continue with what we're saying. One, process is really, really important that we've had discussions around process. Obviously, there may be some matters that wishes to raise that we can look at it. Yes, it's my decision. It's like experience.
First real test of this commitment came over the potential sale of land off West Street in Greytown. Despite considerable pressure, I held true to my word. I was supported in this position by our staff's advice that the sale of a largely insignificant parcel of land was significant, and therefore the need to consult the public was required under our policy. I'm now faced with the second real test of that commitment, whether to unilaterally vote for a change in the governance structure of the council without normal consultation. I would suggest that there is no council, and I may be wrong, around this table that campaigned on a platform of establishing an additional ward seat, regardless of whom that seat may be specified. Additionally, I would suggest that everyone here agrees with the significant engagement policy of the council, since we all adopted the South Warwick District Council's policies unanimously when we started. Our officers are suggesting that under the law, we do not need to consult. I submit that this is incorrect. The Local Electoral Maori Wards and Maori Constituency Amendment Act 2021 removed the ability for the community to decide these matters by poll. It did not in any way remove the requirement to consult the community on matters of significance. The Local Government Electoral Legislation Act of 2023, which came into law in August of this year, is not even mentioned by our officers. It amended the Local Government Act referred to by our officers in our papers and inserted a couple of sections 19G8 and 19GB, which deal specifically with Māori representation for elections of territorial authorities and regional authorities. And it states in part, and I quote, before making a determination, the territorial authority must engage with Māori and other communities in the district or region. It goes on to say, we must then have regard to all their views on whether the representation arrangement for the territorial authority or regional council should include specific Māori representation. Communities in the law is defined in the Local Government Act and is indeed supported by the definitions in our significance and engagement policy, as Rebecca noted earlier. Taking the officer's advice, which I stated that I believe is flawed because it took no account of the amendments described, if their position is that by law we do not need to do something, then the default position on how to proceed then rests with our policies. In this very issue before us today, to assist us in making that determination, we have our Council's significant and engagement policy, a policy that has been properly developed and consulted on before adoption. The question we all need to address is quite simply, is a change in the governance makeup of a council a matter of significance to the whole community? Our officers have stated in the report to us that this is significant. If we agree, then under our policy and the law, we must consult. It has recently been pointed out to me by a few learned and experienced leaders of local government organisations at Chief Executive, Councillor, Mayor and Chairperson level that under Schedule 1 of our Council's significance and engagement policy, the second category would place this matter as one of high significance. Under Schedule 2, decisions relating to representation and electoral systems are ranked higher than the long-term plan. One can only then determine that we must consult on the issue. At this stage, I will make the point that this significant and engagement question is a completely different question as to whether there should be a Māori board, a continuation of Māori standing, or both. On the flip side, a member of the public I greatly respect said to me that, quote, can I not see the way the country is heading and to get with the program? With the greatest respect to all the people who hold that view, and I'm sure some of them around this table do, this is not a basis for making sound policy decisions which affect our community. If we were to look back over the last few years, there are a couple of events that have caused me to reflect very deeply. The violent confrontation that occurred at our Parliament and the undertones of race issues that permeated the most recent election. I would submit that the thing in common between them was that the decision makers, in both cases our central government, failed to listen to the wide-ranging views of our country, instead seeking to divide our nation when people do not fit the established and predetermined narrative. If we go ahead with a decision of such significance to our community in a similar way, without any form of consultation, in defiance of the law, we risk a backlash against the very community aspirations that this proposal before us is trying to get. I'm also very concerned with the way this paper has been put together. In my 4 years on this council, I would argue that this is by far the most situated paper I have read. I would argue that it has been written to achieve a specific outcome. It is factually incorrect in law, one-sided, full of vague and misleading statements, and attempts to suggest consultation has been done widely, and finally tabled with no time for wider community to address the issues in it. Despite what the paper suggests as a right understanding of this issue across the community, with no evidence of such, I do note that in the most recent newsletter in October that goes to all ratepayers, there is no mention of this significant topic. I also noticed, Mayor, that in your article to the Great Whites, you made no mention of this issue in your letter, but you talked about every other topic. Were we to follow our officer's advice and consult in the same way for an LTP, we would be seen to be breaking the law. Why is this matter any different? Given that the last council both directed and funded officers to conduct a governance review, including the very important issue of Māori representation, was 2.5 years ago, leaving it until the last council meeting before the legislative deadline, thereby ensuring no time for community consultation, can only be interpreted as unhelpful at best. Now, some other way given to me, which I won't read out today, from members of the community. You will all know that I have not in any way spoken for or against the proposal. I have read all the submissions by the Māori Standing Committee, and I commend you on the work you have done and the various variety, and clearly understand your position and your aspirations. I have, however, not heard from the wider community as the law and our policy directs, and therefore I am not able to cast an informed vote for or against the Māori. For me, there remain many unanswered questions. While some of them will address questions of race relations, race representation, there are other questions which need to be debated and addressed so that we know exactly what we are voting for. For example, are the ratepayers okay with increasing the size of the council from 9 councillors to 10? Or should the general seats be reduced to retain a council of 9? When does a second Māori seat come to fruition? 1,000 votes, 1,000 registered voters, or 1,800, or whatever number? What happens to the corresponding general ward seats to retain that proportionality? Conversely, what would happen if the Māori roll decreased? At what stage would the seat become untenable?
Right, thank you, councillor Plummer. That was the second of the class. Well, I'm going up and down. When does anyone want to invite Janice to make some comments on the legal position and on the consultation?
Well, I would also like to propose, all right, I'll do that.
Would you like to move your amendment?
Yes, I would. As councillors know, we must engage the wider public as part of our representation review. That in part will look at the makeup and representation levels and community voice and voting systems. That consultation will be conducted next year. I therefore propose that this paper be incorporated into the consultation as part of the representation review process in the new year, as was passed by the previous council.
So the second one. I'd like to read the amendment again, please.
I therefore propose that this paper be incorporated into the consultation as part of the representation review process in the new year, as passed by the previous council.
I think that's an amendment which contradicts the main motion.
We have voted on the motion, so we are told I propose standing also.
You can't have an amendment which contradicts the main motion. That's the paper in front of us is proposing a vote right now. You're proposing a vote sometime next year.
Yes, I'm proposing it.
Yeah, that's all right. So I will look at it. So I'm going to ask Janice to talk about two things. One is the legal position, and one is the process of consultation.
Thank you, through the chair. There are two decisions that council needs to make that sit outside of the context of representation review. One of those is the voting method, whether you retain first past the post or move to single transferable vote. The other is the creation of a Māori ward. Having made those two decisions at some point, they then become part of the representation review going forward. The decisions have to be made before the representation review is commenced. The amendment to the Local Elections Act no longer requires or allows council to consider a poll or any information that may have been garnered from a previous poll. Section 19Z of the Local Electoral Act requires the decision to be made by council by November the 23rd, 2 years prior to the next election. That date is tomorrow. I have consulted with a senior partner at Citizen Rathbone this morning, and he has confirmed that there is no mandatory requirement for council to consult either under the Local Electoral Act or the Local Government Act. Council is required to make a decision prior to the representation review, and then the representation review will consult how that ward, if it's accepted, how that ward is then defined, and whether it is an additional seat or a replacement seat as part of that process. The councillor has referenced engagement and community and consultation with the community. We are in a position where the special consultative process that fits within the LGA does not apply to this decision. I think the paper at pages 77 and 78 clearly outlines the engagement processes that have been followed, and they do meet the requirements of the LGA, as not every engagement or consultation has to follow a separate consultative process. You can engage at this level in a different way. And I believe that the actions that have been taken over the last 14 months have allowed both Maori and non-Maori participation in that process.
Thank you. Now, councillor McCauley.
Oh, thank you, Lydia, and thank you, Chief, for the clarification there. I was going to comment on the component work what Janice has done, but she has done that so much more competently than me, so I'll pass on that. But I did just want to say, Councillor Pilmer, when you said that none of us campaigned on any such issues as what we are looking at now, and I really do disagree.
Well, I said I may be wrong.
We are very wrong, yeah, and quite a few of us that
That's right.
yeah, express the needs of, I just want to make sure that we were quite a lot of us that campaigned on issues that security, there was actually governance issues, and they're not particularly Maori ward, the countries, so it wasn't that's coming up, but I just like that reported that was going to go these things.
I said I may be wrong.
Yeah, but I just like to continue to be wrong.
Yes, councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Councillor Plummer has presented a well-crafted response today. I call it a deflection, a near perfect distraction away from one very simple question that we are asked to answer today. Should South Wairarapa District have a Māori ward, yes or no? The time for debate on how we got here has passed. We had many opportunities to push back or ask questions of the engagement process over many months. Let's not forget that engagement on this matter was available on social media, South Wairarapa District Council website, information sessions were held, and all were open, all of our community members. The natural focus of this engagement was Māori, but the engagement was never exclusive. Looked at the process many of our neighbours have used, and I can comfortably say that we followed similar processes, and in many cases a much stronger process. The time to ask how all this will work can still come. We'll discuss that in time. But let's not be distracted. Let's focus on the question at hand. A Māori ward, yes or no? A Māori Standing Committee have worked hard over many months to understand the question, its implications, and form a position, one they've given us today. We at this table have a loose understanding that recommendations that come from a committee should not be relitigated, simply clarified and passed at this council table. We've seen that happen this morning from the ICS committee. If we feel the need to relitigate, pick apart, and find holes in the process in order to ignore a unanimous recommendation of one of our committees, then I can only argue that this further proves we have a very long way to go and need a Māori ward now more than ever. I am very comfortable in the position of Māori ward today.
Yes, firstly, I'd like to acknowledge Councillor McCauley because she's quite right. She, there were others that actually did with these types of concerns on there. So I'm sorry, Councillor Plummer, but some of the information that you stated today is in fact incorrect. So quite a bit, because I saw you shaking your head with regards to information and that. But with council's legal advice, and you disagree with that. So I'm not quite sure what more it could actually take for you to understand that actually the due process has been followed here, and it's not just been followed, it's more than followed. I look back on when this came up in 2022, okay, and first presented because previously in 21 the leeway time just that wasn't there at all. It was to be able to properly engage with the people who this vote affects. That is the main, I heard you commend the Māori Standing Committee for the work that they did. But you only need to look at this paper to see how many opportunities our community in South Wairarapa have had to engage. It hasn't just been at Marae, it's been with them being able to do it by written, it's been things done at the Martinborough Town Hall, it's been in various locations for people to be able to engage with regards to this process. And so I disagree with the fact that engagement hasn't been done, and that consultation in the wider district is needed when the legislation was actually stating that the Māori needed to be engaged and those on the Māori roll. And if that wasn't done and couldn't be proved, then that was something that council had to show as well. Okay, so if it doesn't go through, that's something else that they get to show that they haven't done correctly. So, you know, I look at the position that has been taken by the Māori Standing Committee on behalf of the hapu iwi whānau of our district. And that's fantastic, because I was going to say this is obviously shown that this needs to be reported. So I'm very glad that you agree with me. And so, you know, obviously there's only one way that we should be going. The Māori Standing Committee have our representation for this. They have done mahi already, okay, and done with the engagement and made sure that the results have come back to us unanimously. And so I am so pleased to be able to support this. And you know, because at the end of the day, you know, I am a councillor. A councillor is what I do, but I am Māori. Kia ora.
So, Councillor Māori.
Biggest speakers, it's nothing like acknowledge the work you've done. Thank you for done on this. First things I would say that I am personally supporting my ward seat. I can understand the desire for a seat, because the desire of the needs for a seat at the table. My issue with this has been surrounding the process that has been talk about the community engagement that has been undertaken. Apart from my standing committee, that obviously several of those, there's been one with the FCB, one or two with the Martinborough community board. There's been,
you'll still get your 5 minutes, but apparently there's a technical fault with the microphones on the side of the room. And so Amy suggested us that we ask you to speak a bit later.
And it was the work the Māori Standing Committee have done on this, and the work everybody's done on this is obviously fairly extensive. That I am personally, I am in support of the need for a Māori wood in a seat at the table, but the need and the desire for that. But my issue for this really comes around the process that has been followed. The process has been followed. There's been a lot of public engagement. I disagree. There's been a lot of public engagement. There's been engagement with the Māori Standing Committee. There's been limited engagement with the Māori Community Board and the Citizen Community Board. So there's been none with the Great Community Board. This was initially tabled at the last community board before this. We were at the time. We asked that it was important to be discussed with the people who were told to be heard. So the next meeting was in the next couple of weeks after this vote has been taken. So there's been no consultation or discussion with the Great Ound community on this at all. And while my personal viewpoint is that we need this, I represent a lot of people who voted for me, and I have to take into consideration what their feelings are on this and what they want. And right now I feel that I am unable to answer the criticisms they may leave with this.
because I'm looking for position of facts. This agenda was sent to me, I'm not sure anybody else, but at 3:48 on Friday afternoon. It's a substantial document, it's an important document. Unfortunately for myself, I had Toast Margaret over the weekend, and then the clean up and that followed. I was unable really to get to this until basically last night, which I don't feel is enough time to digest everything that has to happen here. For a vote that I feel has been well loaded through for us, because there is a deadline tomorrow when we've actually got a bit of breathing space here to discuss this further at the representation review. Excuse me. For instance, at that review, I believe personally that we actually have too many councillors in the state. We have too many ward councillors now, and we should have a rule, which should be a councillor for the represents our ward community. When would that be discussed? That would be put through something like this. That would come up at that ward representation. I so consider it that. Yes, there's a difference in that, but not really. You would consult the community on it. This, I feel, comes into our strategic engagement policy that we have to consult on the LTP. There, down there, an annual plan. We should be doing the same thing on this as well. We're going to go to the public. I noticed, we talk about the website that's in here. I don't remember us being asked about this that went up on the website. Instead of coming before a council meeting, we were asked to sort of, to approve this. This, that was just on the website, as was this. When who authorised the statement along the lines of a Māori would be addition to this committee, the Māori Standing Committee exists, and the Māori was our initial way for council to increase Māori participation in decision making. When I get it, we need it, but it was never put before us to approve. And again, as I come back to the process that's being followed here, I have a problem with that. Māori what I agree with, but I'm going to struggle to vote for it today. My apologies for that. And I'm probably going to be labelled as all sorts of things for it. That's just the cost of the zero.
Councillor Wood.
Yeah, firstly, I'd like to commend Andrew and all Mary Standing Committee, Mariah and everyone else that's put such a hard effort. Unfortunately, I'm very much in the line of what Mr. Bosley, Mr. Plummer, Mr. Fox, and Alex have all presented the processes. I'm a little bit concerned that it would be much better if the whole wider community got more time to reflect and put consultation in. Personally, when I started running for council, knowing this was coming up, I started asking people, Māori people, even come forward. People are just running into the bubble wherever, just to pick you up as a councillor and running for council. And I think there was anything no from people for us. And I've got a foot on both camps and my policy. I'm a little disappointed as a councillor that when any hui or korero were happening in my life, that we weren't actually asked to come along and join in on the conversation and get a representation from the Māori community as to how they were thinking and how it was going. Maybe as a we say young, not years, but in an age and as being a councillor, maybe a little bit of fault of himself, and maybe some of the other newer councillors that learning the processes met over the last year of how everything works in council, we're probably a little bit behind the 8 ball and stuff. So unfortunately, and I'm probably at the moment with Boz going to be struggling to yes for this purely on the consultation side of it. Even in this paper in front of me, and I was like, Boz, I got this document at 10 o'clock last night. That's the honest truth. I was up to all hours this morning reading right through this. So we have a thing here that states about sections 76 and 82 in the Act describe the requirements for community engagement. But then they actually only gave us section 78 and 81. So we put there to lean us a certain way, and the other 7, the other 5 of the 7 sections weren't given to us to read. So do they tell us a different story? Things like that. Yeah, sorry, but we are struggling.
Okay, what I intend to do now is put it to the vote. Okay. Right, well, in actual fact, I could easily have put it to the vote, two speakers previously. Our rules state that when three people have spoken, we each in on a motion, but we should put it to the vote. But I have let other people speak. Now, I just.
Ask our council. This is a really, really important topic. And I think it's really important for everyone. Regardless of your personal.
Yes, so I believe that, but that's, if people, majority of council, if you people.
Yes, okay, councillor.
Thanks very much. Reading reports, going through the agenda, reading through all the information, had me reflecting. And I grew up in Greystown. My father took me down to Popawai over the years and explained to me in his own terms. He explained to me father explained to me in his own terms, he said the carvings outside on the right, around the outside of the right, all face inwards because of the peaceful relationships. Married, Popawai, the local Pakeha settlers. He said that the Pakeha and Maori around Greystown lived in harmony. He told me that this was their only place in New Zealand like this. My father also told me that Popawai came to seek the Maori Parliament in the 1890s, so it's a very important place, both locally and nationally for Maori. And then 40 years later, in November last year, we as councillors were privileged to be invited and sworn into our new roles within the Whanganui of Popawai. I was honoured as a Greystown born and bred kid to be in the Whanganui there. So moving forward, we've come to this the turning point. And in the last few days, I've gone back and I've looked at some of the papers that are already on council agendas and council websites. I've looked at the 2021 Perception Residents and Ratepayers Perception Survey. And in that survey, only 28% of respondents felt their Mana Whenua and SWDC had a strong relationship. Only 35% of Maori felt satisfied with core council services. The 2022 Perception Survey, only 21% of Mana Whenua felt that SWDC, or that they had a strong relationship with SWDC, a drop of 7% from the previous year. 17% of Maori were satisfied with overall South Wairarapa District Council performance, while only 28% of Maori were satisfied with local services, facilities and infrastructures. Again, a drop from the previous year's perception survey. So today I'm sitting here asking myself, are Maori, Mana Whenua, Tainga Whenua, and iwi across our district clearly represented across our council table and governance and decision-making roles? In 2023, can we do better? So today we're sitting around this table, colleagues, all elected members, we've been elected by our peers to represent our communities. That is and it is our role to face challenging situations. It is our role to make courageous decisions. That's what we do today. Thank you.
Sure. So I don't think it would come as any surprise to anybody that I intend to vote yes for Maori Awards. I feel like it's a simple and easy decision to make and the most moral and correct decision to make. And I'd almost go so far as saying that I personally feel quite embarrassed for anybody who voted against it. But I would also like to direct people on the table to the code of conduct that we've all signed up to, and note that in that code of conduct, there's a couple of points in it, and one of which is to treat all members of staff, so other members, staff, and members of the public with respect. I think if we sit here and repeatedly say over and over again that we're not comfortable with the process, at what point does that tip into disrespect when the advice that we've had from the officers, from our CE, is that we have followed a great process. So I think we'll kind of find money, but that's.
Just, using my right to reply, I'll just refer to another district council that recently voted on a Maori board on. And the advice from their chief executive was along these lines. So bringing a Maori board takes nothing away from anybody, but provides a tremendous opportunity for them. And I think that's a very nice way to start. So we're now going to put it to the vote. To go back to the wording of the recommendations. Yeah.
To approve option 2, choose to establish the 2025 and 2028 elections in South Wales.
Both motions together, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. That's carried. Okay, what we're going to do, we've got 5 minutes till lunch, and so we are going to go to lunch properly at midday. But before we do that, we will go to agenda item D5 on page 191. Yes, because I think this will be a very short one. Officers recommend that we receive the bank secretary report. We approve the additionally named bank secretary, CEO, and we approve the removal of the named bank secretary, general manager, finance. Do I have any of those announcements? Second, do you wish to talk? You don't want to use that? No. Just to say, all in favour, please say aye. Let's go to lunch.